COVID a year ago was this big scary thing. We didn't know what it was going to be like. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We all thought it would be, 2 to 6 weeks, and we'll be done. And here we are a year later, still dealing with the after effects of it. I'd be hard pressed to find a person who hasn't been affected in some way by COVID-19, both positively and negatively. My two of my daughters have had it. I thankfully didn't. I've been vaccinated for it. My daughters haven't yet. And as you start to come at it, the way I would basically say is, a year ago we thought this was a thing that we'd have to worry about for 6 weeks, and here we are a year later, really now faced with what's this brave new world that we're looking upon. And honestly, I'm excited about it because it is the best part about the pressure that it has put on us is that it has forced us to look at technology a different way, visionary versus reactionary. How can I use it to deal with something that is a business problem versus, I've got this thing, I need to fix it. In our case, we want customers to focus on doing the thing that they originally got into technology and started working in technology for, not just keeping all the lights green. Keeping all the lights green is not fun. It's incredibly important role to have. It's incredibly valuable skill set to have, but it's not fun. Keeping all the lights green is just keeping all the lights green. Improving time to delivery, improving scalability, improving security, reducing cost. Those are all things that, finding new and cool and interesting ways to leverage technology between A and B. Those are the reasons that most of us got into technology today, and that's what we want to do. So we work towards that.
Well, you mentioned keeping all the lights green. It reminded me of that episode. Did you ever watch the IT Crowd?
Yes.
And they have the goth guy sitting in that one room, and his job is just to make sure the lights stay
green. Yep. That is exactly true.
And he didn't know what the lights were for.
Doesn't matter. And unfortunately, I've been in organizations where, and this is now 20 years ago, 20-something years ago, 25 years ago. But I was at an organization that I walked into the CIO's office, and he had a little dial next to his desk. And when his CEO would walk in, he'd turn the dial up, and the dial would make the green lights in his server cabinet blink faster, because he was convinced that the faster the blinking lights were being used, the more his server was being utilized. So he had this little dial that he'd hooked up LEDs that would just they were on. It was like green lights on. But the minute that the CEO would walk in, he'd turn this thing up, and suddenly now they'd be blinking and flashing and, kind of like that airport episode or airplane episode or the movie Airplane, where he goes, the lights are beeping and flashing. And that's kind of what needed to happen. Because the CEO was convinced that if things weren't happening on the server, he wasted money. And the amount of work that the CIO went into to just change a little dial that gave him power on an LED set was, it was a dimmer switch here for what was working over there. But it was impressive. But that was 1996. And yeah, I love the IT Crowd because as I talked to that guy over time, and his name was Kevin, as I talked to Kevin over time, when he left, he left for a while and then came back, and no one knew what the dial was for next to the desk of the CIO. But they never touched it because they didn't know what it was for. And I always laugh because that to me is the guy in the IT Crowd. Nobody knows what the lights do. His job is just to make sure they stay green. And that's always a challenge when you start to talk, generations of IT people inside of a single organization. You can see entire turnover, and they look at a solution and go, how important is this? And no one knows, because it was really important to the previous group, and someone got told this is really important, but maybe it's been, usurped by 3 other applications. And those 3 applications, make this other 4th application obsolete. Mm-hmm. Is it still important? Yeah, don't break it. It's the most important thing we have, because nobody knows the backstory or anything else around it. So, and that's the goth guy with the lights in the room off to the side.
Yeah, right. Well, you even told me stories about people having, I don't know if it was a router or something, duct taped to the back of a pole, and I mean, you've had some pretty crazy stories.
I've seen a laptop duct taped to a column in a building, with a serial port to an RS-232 printer, and it printed checks for an entire company. And it was, the reason it was on a laptop and duct taped to a pole is because the person that had written the program that took the data in and printed the checks had recently passed away. And by recently, I mean 18 months, in the past 18 months. And so they didn't know what his application actually did, but they knew that as long as that laptop was on, checks for accounts payable got printed. I've seen that. I've seen a entire network room that had been drywalled over.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you look and go, what in the heck were people doing? So,
oh, we could probably have a whole episode just talking about some of those things.
Fun stories.
Well, thanks again, Aaron. This was a great conversation again, and I'm sure we'll even have some bigger topics here in the very near future. Thank you for watching Stratum's Cloud Interrupted. If you like what you see, please subscribe, like, and share this video.